In a time long ago, when the people of Israel were being ruled and mistreated by a powerful group called the Philistines, there was a man and his wife who had no children. One day, a mighty angel of God came to the wife with a wonderful and important message. The angel said she would have a baby boy, and this boy would be the one to start saving Israel from the Philistines. The angel gave very special instructions. This boy was to be a Nazirite, which means he was set apart for God from the very beginning. As a sign of this special promise, he must never cut his hair. Also, he was never to drink any wine or eat anything unclean. The woman ran and told her husband all about the heavenly visitor. When the man prayed to understand more, God listened and the angel returned to explain it all again. This showed how very important this child would be. The woman soon gave birth to a son, and they named him Samson. The boy grew, and God blessed him. Everyone could feel that God's Spirit was with young Samson, giving him a strength that was beginning to stir inside him, a secret strength tied to the promise of his uncut hair. One day, when Samson was a young man, he went down to a Philistine town and saw a woman he wanted to marry. His parents were upset because God's people were not supposed to marry from the Philistine tribes. But Samson did not listen, for he was already following his own strong wants. On the journey to arrange the marriage, something amazing happened. A young lion came roaring toward Samson. Suddenly, the Spirit of God rushed upon him with mighty power. Without any weapon at all, Samson tore the lion apart with just his bare hands, as if it were a little baby goat. He did not tell his parents what he had done. This was the first clear sign of the incredible strength God had given him, a strength that lived inside him because of his special promise to God. Later, Samson traveled back to marry the Philistine woman. On his way, he turned to see the lion's body and found a swarm of bees had made honey inside it. He scooped out the honey to eat and even shared some with his parents, not telling them where it came from. At his wedding feast, which lasted 7 days, Samson made a riddle for the 30 young Philistine men who were there. He bet them fine clothes that they could not guess the answer. The riddle was about the lion and the honey. The men could not solve it, so they threatened Samson's new wife, forcing her to get the answer from him. After she cried and pleaded for days, Samson finally told her the secret, and she told her people. When the men gave Samson the correct answer, he knew he had been tricked. The Spirit of God rushed upon him again in great anger. He went to another Philistine town, killed 30 men, took their clothes, and gave them to the men who had solved the riddle. Then, in his fury, he went back to his father's house, leaving his wife behind. This showed a pattern in Samson's life. God's Spirit gave him power to do amazing things, but Samson often used that power for his own anger and revenge, not just to save his people. Time passed, and Samson's pride in his own strength grew. When he went back to see his wife and found she had been given to another man, he became enraged. He caught 300 foxes, tied their tails together with torches, and set them loose to burn the Philistines' grain fields and vineyards. When the Philistines retaliated by harming his wife's family, Samson attacked them fiercely. He struck them down with a great slaughter. Later, when the men of Judah came to hand him over to the Philistines, he let them tie him up with new ropes. But as the Philistines came shouting against him, the Spirit of the Lord came powerfully upon him. The ropes on his arms became like burnt strings, and he broke them easily. Finding the fresh jawbone of a donkey, he used it as a weapon and killed 1,000 men. He was so proud of this victory that he boasted in a song, saying, "With a donkey's jawbone I have made donkeys of them." He was thirsty after this, and God provided water from a hollow place for him to drink. Even in his pride, God showed him kindness and met his need, but Samson did not learn humility. Samson's great weakness was that he followed his eyes and his pride instead of listening to God's wisdom. He next went to the city of Gaza, a Philistine stronghold, and spent the night with a prostitute. The people of Gaza found out and planned to kill him at dawn. But Samson did not wait for morning. At midnight, his strength still upon him, he got up, went to the city gate, and pulled the entire heavy gate along with its 2 posts and bar right out of the ground. He carried them all the way to the top of a hill near Hebron. This was an incredible act of strength, mocking the Philistines who thought they had him trapped. But it also showed his reckless pride, putting himself in dangerous places for no good reason. After this, Samson fell in love with a woman named Delilah, who lived in the valley where the Philistines were strong. The rulers of the Philistines came to her with a huge offer. They said, "See if you can find out the secret of his great strength. Trick him into telling us how we can overpower him. Each of us will give you 1,100 pieces of silver." It was a fortune. So Delilah began to ask Samson, "Please tell me what makes you so strong." Samson, proud and thinking he could not be tricked, played games with her. First, he told her if he were tied with 7 fresh bowstrings, he would become weak. She did this while he slept, but when she shouted, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson," he snapped the strings easily. Then he said use new ropes that had never been used. Again, he broke them like thread. Next, he said to weave his long hair into a loom's fabric. She did this while he slept, but he woke up and pulled the loom pin and the fabric apart. Delilah wore him down day after day, pleading and saying, "How can you say you love me when you do not trust me with your secret?" Her words pressed on him constantly. Finally, his pride and his love for her overcame his good sense. He told her the real truth, the secret tied to his birth and his promise to God. He said, "A razor has never been used on my head because I have been a Nazirite, set apart to God since I was born. If my head is shaven, my strength will leave me and I will become as weak as any other man." Delilah knew he had told the truth this time. She sent for the Philistine rulers. While Samson slept with his head in her lap, she called for a man to shave off the 7 braids of his hair. His great strength began to leave him immediately. She shouted as she had before, "The Philistines are upon you, Samson!" He woke up from his sleep, thinking he would shake himself free as he always did. But this time was different. The Bible tells us a sad and terrible thing. It says, "He did not know that the Lord had left him." His strength was never truly in his hair. His strength was the gift of God's Spirit, which was with him because he kept his Nazirite vow. By giving away the secret of that vow to please a woman, and by letting his hair cut, he broke his promise to God. His pride had made him blind to the real source of his power. The Philistines, who had been afraid of him for so long, now seized him easily. They were cruel. They gouged out his eyes, so the man who had followed his own sight was now in physical darkness. They took him to their city of Gaza, bound him with bronze shackles, and put him to work grinding grain in the prison like an animal. One day, the Philistine rulers gathered in the temple of their god Dagon for a great celebration. They wanted to praise their god for handing over their enemy Samson. They called for Samson to be brought from the prison to entertain them. The temple was packed with people, and all the rulers were there. About 3,000 more people were on the roof watching him. Samson, weak, blind, and humiliated, was led by a boy to a place between the 2 main pillars that held up the whole temple. The people laughed at him and mocked the God of Israel. In that moment of utter shame, with the noise of his enemies all around him, Samson did something he had not done in a long time. He prayed. He asked the boy to lead him to the pillars so he could feel them. Then, with a humble heart, he cried out to God, "Sovereign Lord, remember me. Please, God, strengthen me just once more and let me get revenge on the Philistines for my 2 eyes." He took hold of the 2 central pillars. Then he prayed, "Let me die with the Philistines." Bracing himself, he pushed with all his might. God heard his humble prayer and returned his strength for one final act. The temple shook. The pillars cracked and gave way. With a mighty crash, the entire building collapsed upon all the rulers and the people inside. In his death, Samson killed more Philistines than he killed in his whole life. His story teaches us that God's gifts are for His purposes, and pride makes us forget where our true strength comes from, leading to a great fall. But God, in His mercy, still hears the prayer of a heart that turns back to Him.